Konnichiwa Mina, and after a 2-day break working on some other things, here is week 2 of the 2018 DCFL season. So as we get week 2 started, we take a look at the standings after last week, as right now the playoff picture would be number 1 the Phoenix Devils, number 2 the Chicago Staleys, number 3 the Indianapolis Rapid Stallions, and number 4 the Seattle Tenyo. With the New York Gangsters being the only team with a win record at the moment that would be out of the playoffs, and everyone else with a losing record. Baltimore, Charlotte, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, and the Oakland Pillagers being dead last at the moment. So we now take a look at the Week 2 schedule as we start off with an interesting one as Chase's Chicago Stanleys come into town to face my Baltimore Charm, and then it'll be Jake's Charlotte Bobcats visiting Aaron's Indianapolis Rapid Stallions. And then it'll be Matthew's Phoenix Devils visiting Ahmad's Jacksonville Scouts. Then it'll be Jake's Pittsburgh Power visiting Anthony's New York Gangsters. And we finish off the week with Matthew's Oakland Pillagers visiting Mayumi's Seattle Tenyo. Very interesting thing I discovered. Unless some games tie, we could have everyone be 1-1 or 5 teams 2-0 and the rest 0-2. I hope that the latter one won't be the case. It would be nice if some had some wins on their record. So we get the week started with the Chicago Staleys visiting the Baltimore Charm. Chicago dominated the Jacksonville Scouts last week as my Charm just blew a game against the New York Gangsters last week, so hopefully that won't be the case with us being at home. Maybe we can finally pull it off this time around. But the Staleys would get the win 15-10 as my Charm scored 10 unanswered points in the first quarter alone. But after that, the Staleys, with a strong defensive effort and just 5 field goals, managed to get the win. Oh, God, that sucks. Once again, had the game all the way to the fourth quarter and once again blew it. God damn, my offense is terrible, just like my defense was terrible last week. But hey, good job for Chase, as the Staleys were overall wise the best team in the league, and so far they're 2-0 and convincing victory, so they look like they could be a threat to play in the championship. Then we go out to Indianapolis as the Indianapolis Rapid Stallions host the Charlotte Bobcats. Charlotte lost a close one to the Seattle Tenyo last week, and Indianapolis put a good spanking on the Pittsburgh Power last week in Heinz Field. So let's see what they could do. Could Indianapolis stay undefeated, or could Charlotte actually get their first win? And the Rapid Stallions would get the win 24-17 as their offense was still clicking throughout the game. Now, Charlotte tied the game up going to the fourth quarter, but the lone touchdown Indianapolis got in the fourth quarter was enough to get the victory. So good for the Rapid Stallions. Looks like that trade with the Tenyo turned out to be very efficient so far, as their offense is clicking, and the Charlotte Bobcats, although they're 0-2, they're still been very competitive in both their games. And the good news for the Rapid Stallions too, these were 2 games that they won by a touchdown or more, so that's going to really help them in the standings. Then we go down to Jacksonville as the Jacksonville Scouts host the Phoenix Devils, and the Phoenix Devils, what a stunning game they had the first week of the season, destroying Oakland by 27 points as going into the week they led the conference. Meanwhile, the Jacksonville Scouts, they got dismantled last week at Chicago, but now at home against the worst team in the league, this shouldn't hopefully be too hard for them, right? But the Phoenix Devils would get the victory 24-23 in an upset as the Scouts were leading pretty much the entire game. Their offense was clicking, but unfortunately they blew it in the fourth quarter, let Phoenix take the lead. Jacksonville marched downfield, ran out of time, so they went for the field goal from like 35 yards out, and it was no good. That would have probably won the game right then and there. Another blown loss for Jacksonville as the surprising Phoenix Devils 2-0. Who would have saw that coming? Then we go back up to East Rutherford as the Pittsburgh Power visit the New York Gangsters. The Gangsters did an incredible fourth quarter comeback against my Charm, and the Pittsburgh Power got spanked last week against the visiting Indianapolis Rapid Stallions. How will they do? Will the Gangsters win in convincing fashion enough to get into the playoff picture, or will the Power get their first win of the year? And New York would get the victory 23-13 in a convincing 10-point win, which is pretty big for them since they need that in order to get into the playoff picture right now. As the Power tried to be competitive but just couldn't keep up against the New York defense, which was pretty devastating this game, forcing 5 sacks, I believe it was, and forced two turnovers too. They really shut down Pittsburgh's offense this week. A really convincing win by New York, as they're going to need that to get into the playoff picture. Unless Seattle loses the next game, and then they would be in the playoff bracket. And then we finish off the week as the Oakland Pillagers visit the Seattle Tenyo. Seattle got a pretty hard-fought, convincing victory against Charlotte last week on the road, and Oakland got embarrassed when they visited Phoenix last week, losing the league worst so far, 27 points. That was terrible, as Seattle's still trying to keep up with everyone in the playoff bracket, whereas Oakland's still trying to get their first win and remain competitive, as they're in a really good shot now to maybe get into the playoff bracket or close to it, since they would be the only one 1-1 other than Seattle if they get this win. And Seattle would get the victory in the very first overtime game, 15-12, in an all-field goal. Wow, no touchdowns were scored at all, as both offenses struggled, and Seattle's defense forced 4 turnovers, 3 interceptions, and a fumble, and they still barely got the win. Wow. In fact, Oakland had more yards offensively than Seattle did, so that's not, Mayumi's not going to be too happy seeing this result. Yes, she won, but barely beating Oakland by 3 points with a terrible offensive performance, and both teams were terrible in third down, including Seattle only getting 25% conversion. So yeah, they're going to really need some serious work if they're going to remain competitive. That defense did better, but that offense took a nosedive. And with that, week 2 is in the books, as we now take a look at the standings, as it would be the Phoenix Devils still with the number 1 seed, the Chicago Staley still with the number 2 seed, the Indianapolis Rapid Stallions still at the 3rd seed, and the New York Gangsters now with their convincing 10-point victory actually leapfrog over Seattle, as they now have the 4th seed in the playoffs, as it would now be New York at Phoenix and Indianapolis at Chicago for the playoff games before we get to the championship. Seattle's the 5th seed, Baltimore 6th, Charlotte 7th, Jacksonville 8th, Pittsburgh 9th, and dead last is still Oakland at 10th. And wow, the unfortunate scenario did happen. Half the league is undefeated and half the league is winless. Oh god, I hope the schedule is going to change so some of that can change around a bit. And now we take a look at the schedule going into week 3. As we'll start off with the Baltimore Charm visiting the Pittsburgh Power. It's nice, so we got teams that finally can get their first win. And then it will be the New York Gangsters visiting the Charlotte Bobcats. And then we gotta start maybe taking seriously as possibly the championship game preview, as the Chicago Staleys visit the Phoenix Devils, and one of them is gonna leave undefeated. And then it would be the Indianapolis Rapid Stallions visiting the Oakland Pillagers. And then we finish it off with the Seattle Tenyo at the Jacksonville Scouts. And with that, week 2 of the 2018 DCFL season is in the books, and I can't wait for week 3, as we'll finally hopefully start shaking the conference up so we can finally see who's for real and who's not. So see you soon for week 3.